for work. So,
That's all right, mate.
Yeah, just jumped out of the car. Good to meet you.
That's all right. No, thanks, mate. Yeah, I really appreciate you. Giving me your time during the day, mate. Yeah, it's really appreciated.
All good, all good. You did I get the times right? It's 10 o'clock over there.
Yeah, mate. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. No, it's beautiful. Yeah, Dene Halatau, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA. Giving me your time today, mate. I really appreciate it. Have a chat about life, footy, and everything in between.
No, all good, Jamie. Glad to come on. Good to have some NRL fans over in the West.
Oh, mate, there's a lot over here, mate. And that's the point of this page is to promote the game over here, get more people involved in rugby league, and we'll discuss later. But the possibility of the 18th team being in Perth. So that's like I said, it's the whole point of the page.
Good to hear, man. Good to hear.
Yeah. So we'll jump into your career, mate. You played over 250 or 49 games. Sorry.
Played one shy of 250.
I know. How devastated were you?
I was a little bit disappointed, but that's all right. There's still 249 before that, so all good.
That's it, mate. So you make your debut for the Tigers. You have a stint there of 128 games. You jump over to the Bulldogs from 2010 to 2013, and then you return back to West Tigers. And then you also get to represent New Zealand 15 times over your career, mate. When you look back at your career, is there anything you take out of it that has made you into the man, the person, father that you are today?
Oh yeah, 100%. You take a lot of lessons from your parents or your family when you're younger about how you turn into a growing up and how you become a man. And definitely took a lot of lessons from my parents. But rugby league does teach you, some wonderful things about life that you probably don't realise it in the moment. But it definitely teaches you some skills that are really useful in life. And then getting to play at the top level and play first grade rugby league, for as long as I got to do, it definitely shaped the person I am today. And without it, I don't think I'd be the same person. I'd like to think I'd still be a pretty good person, but it provided a life for me that I couldn't really dream of when I was younger. I've got a wife and 3 children that we had a roof over our heads. We live a happy life together, and a lot of that was due to the fact that I got to play first grade football and experience what I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. And it's great that you what's the word? Appreciative of your rugby league career. What it has given yourself and your family, your wife and 3 kids. And you could have got that another way, but you're still appreciative for the fact that you worked hard and got that through your first grade career.
Yeah, well, one thing that I was really sure of when I decided to retire from football was that I was very, very lucky, as anyone that plays first grade I was very lucky to be able to do that for a living and to get paid for it. And rugby league doesn't owe me a thing. I owe rugby league plenty, and that's the kind of outlook that I had through my career, the outlook that I had when I finished, and even now I'm lucky I still get to work. I work in the game currently, so it keeps giving to me. But I didn't expect to walk out of my playing career and be handed anything because I was a football player. I owed the game plenty, so. Very appreciative and very grateful that I got to do it. Made some really good friends along the way, made some really good connections, and they're friends that I'll have for life. And I'll probably say that's the biggest thing that you get out of playing. I dare say with any team sport, it's the connections and the friendships that you make that last a lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely it does. And like you said, you take them in for life. So that's, it's something you can't take away from, team sports. That makes these kids that are coming up today look forward to when they get older.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry. You make your debut for Tigers 03 versus Manly. Do you remember the week leading up to your debut? Did you get the tap on the shoulder and you're making your debut this week, or was it a late call up?
It's actually it's funny. I remember that that game probably more so than a lot of other games, and it was the first one. And I was training with first grade part time during that period. I think Sheensy had called me in maybe 3 or 4 weeks earlier. I was going okay in reserve grade, and he asked me to come and train with first grade a couple of mornings a week. So I wasn't full time. I didn't train much in the preseason with the first grade squad. I was just playing reserve grade, and that week I was preparing as if I was going to be playing reserve grade. And late in the week there was a few injuries hanging over the team. Sheensy called me in the day before on captain's run. So it was Saturday. We played on the Sunday. The Saturday morning run, it would have been about a 10 o'clock captain's run, I think. He phoned me up really early that morning and asked if I could be at training because they had some doubt over a few players. So I said, yeah, for sure. I jumped in the car, went to training, and those players didn't pass the fitness test during that session. So I was pretty much told that morning that I was going to be playing first grade the next day. Myself and Robbie Farah actually were in the same position. We debuted together. So he and I were called into training late. Both got told that the players that were on standby for were out and we're going to be playing. So it was weird. I probably would have rather been told the day of the game just before that I was playing, because it gave me 24 hours to think about it. And I was okay until going to the game. I started to get really nervous. I'd called around all my mates, and my family were coming to the game. So I had organised tickets to get a whole bunch of people there to watch me. So, I was like, I better not stuff up. And I'm sure there's a lot of similar stories for anyone that debuts. But the day of the game, I remember going to the game, and it was at Leichhardt Oval. I'd stopped a few times to go to the bathroom because I was that nervous. And the game itself, I remember it really well because I only played 3 minutes, so there wasn't a lot to remember from it. I sat on the bench for 77 minutes, maybe 76. Maybe got 4 minutes in, but come on the field really late. The game was gone. We were little chance of winning, so I came on the field into the centres. I tackled Steve Menzies. That was a highlight for me. A guy that I kind of idolised for a few reasons. He was a professional. He was a great player, but he just seemed like a really good person, well-rounded player. Loved the way he played. Wasn't necessarily one of my favourite players, but a guy that I really respected.
Yeah.
So that was a highlight, tackling Steve Menzies. One of 3 tackles I made in my 3 minutes on the field for my debut.
Oh, that's awesome, mate. That's cool. And tackling Steve Menzies, because he was, big name player. For Manly, and New South Wales and Australia as well. So to have him running at you and then be able to tackle him as well, that would have been a definite highlight for your career as well.
I actually got to tell him that story about 18 months ago. We were doing a promo for the NRL together out at Griffith, and we were telling some stories to the kids in the crowd at the school. And I told that story. I said, he was standing next to me. I said, Steve doesn't know this, but he was one of the first players I tackled in my career. And we lost that game, but still I got to tackle Steve Menzies. So I was pumped.
How did he take that reaction?
No, he didn't know, because I've known him now for a little while. Just our partners are familiar with each other, become friends. So we kind of crossed paths a few times and always have a chat to him. He's a really decent guy. So I'd never brought it up until that point.
Yeah, right. That would have been a bit of a shock for him. He would have had a little giggle to himself.
I told him I smashed him.
That's the way. You're talking before that you're still working for the NRL. You're 2017. You got made an NRL ambassador. What's your role with the NRL these days, mate?
Yeah, so 2017. I actually started working at the NRL pretty much as soon as I retired. So in rugby league life, your contract and the financial year for rugby league ends at the end of October. So at the end of 2016, announced my retirement. I had my last paycheck up until the end of October. So from November 1, I pretty much started working my next career. And I was lucky enough. I had a part-time role with the Tigers and then a part-time role at the NRL, which I was kind of blending. And in my time at the NRL, I was working in wellbeing and education. They made me an ambassador the following year. There was a heap of people that worked at a bunch of ex-players working in the game, but also broadly, a lot of players that had retired that were made ambassadors to go out and do community carnivals and all sorts of things, similar to what I was talking about with Steve Menzies when we went to Griffith, that type of thing. But my role at the NRL was around supporting players off the field. So just sort of helping make sure that their lives were balanced away from rugby league. You know, are they in education, like undertaking some sort of study, or are they working towards a career goal other than rugby league? Do they have family life balance? You know, it was really a good role that I did up until probably 2 years ago as a full-time role. So I was quite lucky that the boss of that department at the NRL, I'd known him since I was about 16 years old. He was he used to work at the Tigers. He was my first football manager at the Tigers, and a welfare manager back then at the Tigers. And I'd done quite a bit of work leading up to retiring around this sort of area, and it was sort of a natural fit for me post-footy to go into that. He had a need to fill a gap, so I was there, and I was lucky enough to get that opportunity. But it's a wonderful team, great work, because you're working with players, and as I said, it's about what goes on off the field, not necessarily what goes on the field. And often you find when players have got good things happening in their life and they're balanced, the performances take care of themselves. And that was a really good role. I've since transitioned out of that team, and I work with the football department now. So I'm in operations. I'm really lucky that I get to work really closely to what you see on the weekend. I work behind the scenes with part of the operations that go on there, and I look after the injury surveillance crew. So you'll on the side of the field, you'll see a monitor where the doctors often go over to view potential head injuries and whatnot. While the team that operates that tech, I look after them, and also do some work with our medical advisory panel as well. So I'm very blessed that I get to work with the guys that run the game basically week in, week out. Some really good people. A couple of ex-players in our department. Jason King sits right near the top. He's doing really good things, and Frank Pullator as well. He's in there looking after international strategy and awards and recognition. So, mate, very, very, very blessed to be still in the game.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome news. You know, and you know, I've noticed, you know, with the new HIA stuff coming in this year with the bunker independent doctor as well. You know, I think it's a great idea. You know, because I was listening to the guys on NRL 360 the other day, and they were talking to, I think it was a doctor from the Sharks, and he was saying that, you know, from the sideline on the ground level, you can't see half the stuff, you know, that the bunker can, you know, with all the different angles, you know, and what you guys are doing there with that sort of stuff, it makes the player welfare, like you're saying, so much better and so much more important, I guess, you know, looking after these players these days. Yeah,
that's. I think that's the key to it, right? Is that, you know, the health and welfare of the player is front of mind with anything like this, and the game's doing everything it can. You know, I'll give the NRL a massive pat on the back for that. They really want to ensure that players are looked after in that sense, and you know, it's happening worldwide. There's a greater care for head injuries, and you know, we're trying to make sure that we're leading the way worldwide in how we look after players. And you know, that's the new system that you mentioned, the independent bunker doctors, the independent doctors in the bunker, I should say, is going to take some time for clubs to get the feel for it and get used to it. But like you mentioned there, a club doctor acknowledging how helpful it is really the whole point, you know, having that extra layer of support.
Yeah, definitely, mate. You know, and like anything, you know, it's new into the system. It's got teething problems, but you know, it's there for the right reasons, and you know, I think no one can question that.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
You know, you go 2004. You make your debut for New Zealand, mate. You know, you're born in Invercargill.
Yeah.
You know, you move over to Australia when you were around 4 years old.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you make your debut for New Zealand. I was reading up that you were rooming with Wairangi Kopu.
Yep.
And you weren't quite sure with the haka. Yeah, and he was teaching you in the haka in the room. How was that? You know?
That's a good find. I don't remember. I have told that story before, but that's a pretty deep dive you've done to get that info. Yeah, so like you said, I was born in NZ and I moved to Australia when I was quite young, but and you can tell by my accent, I've been here for a long time, so I've basically grown up here in Sydney. But my dad and I would sit down and watch test matches and my brother as well. And I'd always just support the Kiwis no matter what, because I was a Kiwi. I was proud to say that I was a Kiwi. And even though I've become pretty naturalised Aussie, like I always had the connection that I wanted to hold on to. And, you know, regardless of if like, there was a couple of tests I remember, I went to one test where they got absolutely walloped. And, you know, I just still supported them hard. And I guess that was always going to be the direction I headed when I got older. If that became a reality, not that I ever thought I was going to play international football, but you know, that was kind of where my heart was. And you know, and I love Australia. I consider myself a foot in both camps, so I'm lucky. But yeah, that experience in itself, my first ever tour. If I'm honest, I felt like a little bit not uncomfortable. I was awkward going in because I felt so removed from New Zealand as a country like that. I'd been here for so long that I was worried about how I might fit in with the squad. But it's a funny thing that growing up with Kiwi parents and going into a squad like that felt very familiar once I got into camp. And you know, it was so different to my regular week to week with the Tigers. It was a really family atmosphere to be in camp. And yeah, Wairani, who I roomed with, he I asked him, because I hadn't done a haka before, I've watched it a bunch of times, and I asked him to sort of, we hadn't actually done any work as a team on it, so I asked him if he could teach me, provide a bit of context around what I was saying and some meaning behind the words. And one of the things he said to me was, "Man, he goes, bro, if you stuff it up, it's all right. You just got to do it with a lot of passion, a lot of money, and you'll be fine, you know." So that's what it's about. So I took that on board, and I guarantee you that my first haka I did was down in Carcassonne in France, and there was not many TV cameras there. There was not many people in the stands, so I could afford to make a few mistakes and not feel like everyone was going to draw attention to it. So I was all right. But it was a wicked experience doing it the first time, and then every time since was pretty awesome. It was one of the things I really look forward to when I got to represent New Zealand.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you're saying that, you know, you've been living in Australia for so long that you feel like you're part Australian and Kiwi as well.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in the same boat myself. I'm married a Māori. I lived in New Zealand for about 3 or 4 years. We lived in Rotorua, so
nice
heartland of Māori stuff these days. You know, but I yeah, a lot of people think, a lot of Māoris think that I am Māori. I can talk a little bit of the language, but you know, I feel that, you know, cause even though I was born in Australia, I feel a deep connection back to New Zealand now, because my kids, you know, we've got 12 kids between us, so it's it's a hectic household, mate. You know, but I feel that connection with my kids, you know, and living there myself back to New Zealand. So I, you know, I'm like yourself in that sense, and on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great thing to have.
100%.
So, you know, 2008, you are part of the World Cup winning team. You beat Australia, but you're also, in 2005, you're part of the West Tigers Premiership team. When you compare the two, I know it's a bit hard to sort of compare the two, winning a World Cup final and you know, the grand final, but where do they compare to you?
It's a hard one for me. The 08 World Cup, I was in the squad. I played the first test in the tour, and then I didn't play the final. So I was 18th man for the final, the semi-final, I think, as well. So it was awesome to be a part of the experience. But because I didn't play, I probably wasn't as attached to the win. You know what I mean? And you know, still feel like a World Cup winner. Still feel a part of it, but didn't play in the game on the night. But in terms of like the enormity of actually beating the Kangaroos in that World Cup, man, it was so awesome. And just, you know, Benji had a great game that night. Bronson Harrison, who was pulled into the squad after he played for the Maldives, I think it was down in Taranaki, I think. So, like, he played. He wasn't a part of the original squad. Got called in, ends up winning a World Cup, having a really good tournament back row. It was a real kind good moment for Bronson, and like I was close with him from the Tigers. So some really big moments that were really great to be a part of. But being on the field and winning the GF in 05, again with those boys around, then it was man, it was hard. It was hard to top, man. Like the only way I've topped it is by having getting married and having kids. That's
Yeah.
Life experiences that anyone. It's hard to explain to boys that don't have kids, but kids kind of overtake everything, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, the 05 GF, I was only 22 years old. A bunch of the boys were, like, Robbie was 21, Benji was 20, I think. Liam Fulton, Bryce Gibbs were 21. Like, we had such a young squad. We had a couple of senior boys there that were older. But I don't think we actually realised how hard it is to do that. We were just like, we had a really good year. For a lot of us, it was our third or fourth year in first grade, and we won a premiership. And we're like, yeah, okay, that's how it's done, But
Yeah.
blokes like Scandalis and Mark O'Neill, they were like, you boys don't understand how long it's taken us to get even close to this. To actually do it is enormous. You don't appreciate it, and we did appreciate it. Like I still,
Yeah.
we were grateful, but yeah, man, that was a special moment.
Yeah, definitely. And as you've seen over the last, however many years, that the Tigers have been pretty. It's been pretty crap or hard for them to get back up there. It's pretty lean. Yeah, pretty lean. Last 10 years or so to get back into the final. So they, you guys like yourself, able to won the grand final, able to appreciate it a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. Which man, we're still in a chat group. Like, all the boys are still in a chat group, and we talk a bit each other all the time.
That's the way, mate. You go from, in 2009, you finished with the Tigers. You go to the Bulldogs in 2010, mate. What was the reason behind jumping over to the Bulldogs? Was it just difference of the contract? Nothing. Your West Tigers wanted to move you on. What was it?
I can tell you, it definitely wasn't for money. I never really earned big money in my career. I had a couple of years that were okay, but it wasn't for money. I got to a point with the Tigers. I was off contract at the end of 09, and I wasn't playing the best. And I felt a little bit, if I'm honest, I felt a little bit stale. I felt like I'd gone a bit stale, and I needed to step outside my comfort zone. I had some conversations with people that I was really close with at the time, that I still am actually, but just about, moving away from a club where I love the Tigers so much. I've been there since I was 16 years old, and it was like, well, if I'm going to leave somewhere that I love so much, and I've got an offer, I had an offer from the Tigers to stay. I've got to have a good reason to go, and the reason was I just got too comfortable and too stale. So it was a hard conversation. I had a conversation with Sheensy about leaving, and I sat down with him in a cafe, and it was like breaking up with someone, trying to tell Sheensy that I was going to another club, because I was so thankful to him for what he'd done for my career. He'd stuck by me when I was probably not playing as good as I should be playing, and gave me some good foundations and knowledge in the game. He's a genius in rugby league, and I'm forever thankful for what he provided for me. But I just needed to step out, and the Dogs came in really late. I was about to probably agree to terms with the Tigers, and my manager rang me and said, "Oh, the Dogs have got something for you if you want." I think dollars wise, it was pretty much the same. It was just they were keen to bring me on board. They had a great year in 2009. They almost made the GF. So they were a successful side, and a great club with rich history. So that was probably the reason why I left. And it was hard, but it was more to stretch myself and push myself.
Yeah. That's a really good way to do it, mate. While you're there though, you didn't have the best of times, especially in your first year. Had a couple of injuries. Which it sort of leads me to another question. Maybe this wasn't the case, but I was reading up that when you were there in your first year, you done your MCL. You had to have 2 surgeries basically on your knee to fix it, and you were almost going to chuck your career in. Then you were feeling pretty low, which is sort of my next question is a low point in your life. It might not have been the sports injury, it might be something personal. I don't know. But how did you sort of go through that low point, and how'd you get through it?
It's probably a good question around footy. Like I've had other challenges in my life, but um, in footy, when you're kind of in the bubble of playing rugby league, it becomes all encompassing. Everything's about rugby league. Everything's about preparing for the game. Everything's about being as best you can be, performing week in, week out. And it's kind of a selfish place to be when you've got a family, because game day becomes so isolated about getting ready for the game. And you change. You can't go to weddings during the year if you've got a game on the day. You kind of, everything revolves around it. So when you get injured, seriously, and you know that it's going to cost you games, and it's going to potentially, take away from an opportunity to earn money by getting contracted and all that sort of thing, it can become quite challenging. And I just changed clubs, hoping for that fresh start, that new challenge to stretch myself, and I just couldn't get started because I got injured early in the preseason. I'd actually had an ankle injury in the preseason that I had to get a clean out. I had like these bone spurs I didn't know I had, and they broke off in the trial match, and my ankle just blew up. So I had to get them taken out. First game back from that, done my MCL, as you said. I was on the field for literally like a minute and a half or something, done my MCL. Eventually got back to playing, but I was playing up and down in reserve grade. I think I maybe got 6 or 7 first grade games in that year, and then I'd done my MCL again at the end of the season. And yeah, I was pretty disappointed, pretty upset, and I went and got this surgery done on it, where it was replacement. I got this artificial ligament put in my knee to try and replace the MCL, because I'd torn it at that point. I think I'd torn it maybe 5 or 6 times, so it wasn't healing up enough by itself. So I got the surgery done, and I remember sitting on my couch at home with my leg in a brace up. It was pretty swollen and sore, and just watching the final series. The Tigers had a really successful year as well, and happy. This is such a challenging thought. Is you're happy to see your old club and your mates doing well, but then you're like, man, did I do the right thing by changing clubs? I've gone away. I've hurt myself. I'm sitting on the couch watching them playing a final series that I love to be a part of. So it's a really weird, kind of ugly feeling to sort of be going through that. And it was a low point. Like it was really, really difficult. Fortunate that I had like a really supportive partner. My wife, she was there for me through the worst of me, I'd say, like me just being grumpy, being down, and not being good company. She stuck there, and just did her best to try and make sure that I was getting through that. And also, like, the medical staff at the club, at the Dogs, were really, really. I'm trying to think of what they were. Like they just, I had so much belief in what they were giving me. Like they said, this is the process. This is how we're going to get you back. This is why we done this surgery, and I just trusted them. And going through that process of recovery was tough, but any player that's been through it, or any athlete that's been through those sort of things, anyone that's been through sort of those challenges, physical challenges, whatever it is, like, there's a process and it'll always get better. So just go through it. And I did have another one the next year at the end of 2011. Same thing. The artificial ligament gave way at training around 23 or 4. Had to get surgery done again, so I got it redone then. And I remember actually, Terry Lamb actually had a word to me, because he'd heard that I was, considering tossing it in, because I was just frustrated with the continual injuries.
Yeah.
And he said all it was just a passing comment. I bumped into him one day, and he's a champion fella, Terry Lamb, one of the best you'll meet. And he said, he goes, "Oh, I heard you thinking about flicking it," and I was a bit sheepish. I didn't want to admit to, one of the greatest Bulldogs of all time, that I was thinking about tossing it in, because I'd had a few injuries. But he just said, he goes, "Oh no," he goes, "Mate, don't." He goes, "Way too young." He goes, "Don't, you regret it." Like, it was just really quick. And no, I probably haven't said that to him either. Mentioned that, just that little comment from him, got me in a frame of mind where, okay, if Terry's saying don't give it up, don't give it up. So yeah, good people around me. Lucky that I had that, and just a bit of trust in others is what helped.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome that, it just takes that little one person, he's a great influence on football, from generations. Just to have that little, passing by comment to you, that got you thinking, I want to keep at this. That's awesome. I guess that you're very grateful that happened, because, he went on to play 49 games. So
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that's awesome, man. With these young kids coming through these days with sports, have you got any advice, for the kids over here in Perth, they're wanting to play NRL? Have you got any advice for these sort of kids coming up?
Yeah, I guess it's hard. It's hard for me to put myself over there because I'm unfamiliar with the pathway to go from playing in WA to then playing in the NRL. It feels so like it's physically so far away, right? So although the good ones, Bryson, who I'm good mates with, is from WA, and he carved out a pretty decent career, and his brothers did as well. But I guess the main thing, like, I was never a really talented kid. Like, I was good enough to play in the ones when I was a junior. Like, I made the first division team, but I just did my part. I wasn't really a standout. I think I was just a good teammate and just turned up and did what I needed to do. And I just persisted. I was talking about this to someone. I didn't really feel like I was ever going to be. Everyone has a dream to play first grade, but I didn't really feel like I was ever going to be a first grader. I just kept playing because I enjoyed it. I got better because I listened to my coaches and I did what they asked, and I trusted again that they were giving me information that was going to help me get better and improve me. And the further I went along, I just kept making it into different sides, and I just kept getting better and better. So I guess underneath all that is that be a lifelong learner. Always seek improvement. You're never ever going to be as good as you think you are. There's always room for improvement. That goes for anything you do. It doesn't have to be sport. Like, there's always improvement. Don't be afraid of failure, because that's just a lesson on how to get better, on how to do it differently the next time. And it's human nature to avoid failure. I think you naturally don't want to get something wrong, but it's okay to get something wrong, and it's okay to miss a weight in the gym, to drop a ball on the field, because it'll steal you for the next time. You'll know how to do it differently and get better. Always seek improvement, and always respect and listen to those that have been there before, because they do have lessons to give, even though a young person wants to, where you think you know it all, you think you got it sussed, you think you're doing well, but it's important to listen to the experience of others, because when you actually get in the real world, like I've experienced the last 5 years, you know there's a whole lot of stuff you don't actually know, and you got to catch up.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely perfect advice, mate. These kids these days, they could take that advice so far. Like you said, it's not just for football; it's for life in general. That's all about learning. No, that's awesome, man. Like I said at the top of the interview, mate. Perth. I'm hoping they put in a bid for this 18th team. Because obviously the NRL is not going to have 17 teams for too long. What do you think Perth's chances are? Getting in there.
It's hard for me to say. I actually, I'm not really familiar with the process, but when they went through this recent one to add the 17th team, they had some analysts or strategy people sort of like looking at where the best fit would be in terms of fans and junior leagues and where the talent was going to be best placed and all that sort of stuff. That geniuses that I don't know what they get or how they're crunching their numbers, but and they come up with a second Brizzy team like all the Dolphins, and makes sense that Brizzy's got such a strong following. And I see you got your Broncos shirt on there, mate, so it's going to be some competition for local fans, but and in that, everyone knows that Western Australia and Perth was an option that was tossed up as a 17th team. So I'm not too sure where that bid fell over. I'm sure there was some feedback provided to those that were looking at it. But if we're going to be a truly national sport, then is that the way to go? Perhaps. They've tried it before. They tried Adelaide before, and I honestly have no idea. It's a long way around of me saying I don't know how the chances are, but I'd love to see it, because I think it'd be good to be able to say we have we have a team over in the West as well. Look at like AFL's a little bit different. They've always had such a big footprint in Australia, but if they're looking to expand and make it a real national sport, then it kind of fits to cover the West Coast as well.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll wait and see. I don't know when when that happens. You're right. 17's an odd number. 18 feels better.
Yeah.
No, they could go the other. They could have a future plan of saying like 16 teams. I don't know. We've seen it when we were at 20 teams. When it was when the ARL and the Super League merged back, it was like 20 teams or something, wasn't it? It was
something like that. Yeah, they because there was, I think it was 3, 4, 5 teams maybe that got cut. There was Perth, Adelaide, South Queensland Crushers, and the Hunter Mariners that got.
Mariners, that's it. Yeah.
They all got let go. But they brought in the Melbourne Storm in that same time. So it's a bit of a weird one, but yeah. I mean, I know personally over here, there's a lot of support for the game. It's the hardest thing for us at the moment is our pathway system. Yeah. Because once sort of people get to playing seniors, like the kids playing seniors and that, they sort of go, well, there's nowhere for us to go. We have got a few people that have gone over east. They've had to move over east because there's no pathway here at the moment. Kennedy Sherrington playing NRLW.
Yeah, Kennedy's a cracker, mate. She is so funny. She's she's very popular and doing a great job.
Yeah. So, but she played over here for a couple of clubs over here. Jackson Torpenny, he plays for the Bulldogs. He's from over here. Jason, forgot his name already. Pereira from the Broncos is one of the wingers.
Jordan Pereira.
Jordan Pereira, that's one. Yeah. He played over here as well. In Perth. And like you said before, Bryson Goodwin, all the Goodwin boys, they played over here. So we have got the talent. It's just the pathway system. It's hard because once we sort of get to seniors, it's like, well, where do we go? They have to move over east if they've made all the rep teams and stuff like that. I know our junior base outside of New South Wales and Queensland, we've got the biggest junior base.
I've heard that.
And that's going off Melbourne, who's had success with the Storm for the last 20 odd years, and WA still got a bigger junior base than them. So we must be doing something right over here. So, I mean, that's just obviously my personal opinions. I think, with the State of Origin, the second game coming up this year, the NRL will see that, hey, we do love our league and we're passionate about it. We'll turn up in the droves to go watch it. So.
Well, that last one that was over there when it poured down rain was, that was still pretty good attendance for a miserable night. Like, it looked pretty awesome there. I'm hoping to sneak over this year see if work will send me over for this year. It looks like a great stadium, and looked like it went well.
Yeah, well, I was at the last one, and mate, it was absolutely packed. When the rain did hit, the crowds that were in the rain went up and they just stood underneath the thing, but no one left. And I've got tickets to the new one, so the next one coming up. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I can't wait. But if you do come over, if work sends you over, mate, let me know. We'll catch up for a coffee or something.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I'll try to come up with a better plan for a Western Australia bid.
That's it, mate. That's it. But I think I've talked to like I mentioned in my email to you, I've talked to heaps of people, and everyone wants to see it, but it's just a matter of how do we go about it. That's the only problem at the moment. So the last thing I sort of got for you, mate, I know we'll talk about before you're doing your NRL stuff. What else have you got? Have you got any like personal businesses or anything like that on the side?
No, I'm fully invested in rugby league still. So when the game shut down through COVID a couple of years ago, I was starting to get a bit nervous because all my eggs were in that basket. But no, I work in the game. I do commentate on the weekends on radio for ABC Grandstand. So I'm not sure. Do you get Grandstand at ABC over in WA?
Yeah, we do. But it would be more than likely to be AFL over here on the radio.
Well, I don't know. We're on digital, so you can catch us on digital as well. But
cool.
I've been doing that luckily enough, that just kind of landed in my lap after footy as well. The main caller from here in Sydney, Andrew Moore, who's the voice of rugby league on the ABC network, he rang me up in 2016, at the end of 2016, and just said, "Hey, have you ever thought about commentating or being in the media?" And of course, I said yes. I never had, but I said, "Oh yeah." So yeah, he gave me a crack. The following season, like 2017, I did the All Stars game up in Newcastle.
Yeah.
That year, that was my first game, and then I've been lucky enough to do it ever since. I've kind of moved around with different teams on it, but I do like 1 or 2 games a weekend on radio. Yeah, so that's. I mean, I didn't realize how fast that's gone. It's like 5 seasons now doing that. So it's pretty wicked, man. I still get to I don't do the sidelines as much anymore. I'm up doing co-commentary in the box, but sideline work is fun, man. You just sit there, watch the game, see heaps of the boys, interview some talented players after the game and that. Like it's a really fun gig. Yeah, front row seat to the footy. So yeah.
No, that's awesome, mate. That's great. That you're still involved with that side of things too. With the commentary, because if once you do finish with the NRL, you find that your time's up or whatever, you can still do the commentary stuff. So.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, might keep that one in the back pocket just in case of take a career detour.
That's it, mate. That's it. Dene Halatau, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA and giving me your time, mate. I really appreciate it.
No, good, Jamie. Thanks for the chat, man. It was good to reminisce. Always fun to look back.
Yeah, that's the way, mate. Much love to you and the family, mate, and best luck with everything else.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. See ya.
See ya.